Hi, welcome to SBRtv. I'm Peter Loshak. This is our football opening line show that we do every Monday with John Ryan, SBR contributor and of JohnRyanSports.com. This week we are taking a look at the openers for NFL Week 8 and college football Week 9. John, how you doing?
Good, Peter. How are you?
I'm good. All right, let me quickly ask you about, there's a lot of interesting lines involving like big name teams from big programs. Some very, very interesting lines that I have definitely not bet and don't really have a good read on. But first I want to get your take on a few of the lines from the smaller teams that have intrigued me a bit. The first one, what do you think about New Mexico plus 30.5? At home against Air Force. Air Force has been a bit banged up this year, and they've got Army coming up next week, so I'm thinking this might be a game they just want to get over with and get out, and 30.5 seems like a lot of points.
I'll tell you, I never thought I'd ever see a team not even ranked in the top 25 favored by 30 on the road, but I think it's a function of how good the Air Force offense is going and how bad the New Mexico team is on both sides of the ball. I would actually have a lean towards Air Force only because I just never would have expected to see a line of 30 points by Air Force on the road. So I think the line's kind of telling you something there.
Then other lines that I was thinking about, maybe Wake Forest plus 7.5. I was pretty high on them for a while now. They're 7.5 points on the road at North Carolina. Buffalo plus 7.5 at Miami of Ohio. What do you think of either of those?
I like Wake Forest here simply because North Carolina got scorched by Clemson last week. That was supposed to be a pretty close game. Clemson just annihilated them.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for these young players to recover from an emotional loss like that. All of a sudden you realize, man, we're not as good as we thought we were.
Yeah.
And before you know, you have another loss on your hands the very next week.
Yeah.
So I think Wake Forest is a dangerous matchup for North Carolina.
Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask you about Idaho plus 8.5. That's one that caught my eye. Hawaii, they're traditionally not that great when they go on the road. Idaho's a tough place to play, and they've played all right at times this year. 8.5 at home, underdog.
I think Hawaii's had to travel to the continent here several times in the last month, and that takes its toll. And Idaho, as you mentioned, playing at home, getting 8.5. Right now I see it at 8 at 3 different books. It opened at 10.5, so the sharp money's coming in on Idaho. And in this particular case, I think it is correct.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the games that have interesting lines, marquee teams, and I'm not sure what to make of them. The most obvious one to me is Stanford. They opened, I think, minus 8.5 at USC. Now it's down to a minus 7.5. Stanford's been rolling everyone, but still, USC, a more than touchdown underdog at home. You think that line will get down to under 7? You think people will bet, or you think people will bet Stanford back up to closer to 10 by game time?
I think it's going to be closer to 10 by game time. I don't know if it'll get that high. It's interesting to me, Peter, the psychology, the herd mentality of both, that affects the stock market, commodity prices, crude oil, and sports betting.
Sure, it affects me for sure.
It was just a few weeks ago that Stanford was, an overrated team. They haven't played anybody, Now all of a sudden they're, the public's darling. And Southern Cal is not getting any respect whatsoever, and I think it's attributed to the fact that they have such a young team. They were given no chance to win in Notre Dame. Reading the media heads and the talking heads and all that good stuff, and they marched in there and just basically, they dominated that game with freshmen, with true freshmen.
Well, the line has definitely moved in USC's favor. First time I checked, it was 8.5. Now last time I checked, is USC plus 7.5, minus 113 at Pinnacle. So someone's been moving that line down. Then there's also a bunch of other lines. Let's see. California, usually a bad road favorite. They're a road favorite of 6 at UCLA. That line's come down a bit from 6.5. I'm wondering where you think that line might move.
I think that one's probably a fairly level price tag. Yeah, I would think Cal's going to move up, if anything. And then it would give you an opportunity to get on UCLA.
Right. All right. So what about some other games that you think the public might hit?
The one game I really like here is the Michigan State Nebraska game. And Nebraska is favored by 4. And that game actually opened, I think, at 6, Peter. And it's now down to 4.5 and 4 at some locations. And I think, personally, I'll say it right now. It's pretty rare that I have a strong opinion this early in the week, but this will be at least a 5-star play on the college football thread, and possibly even higher once I get the simulator run. I think Nebraska has the matchups on both sides of the ball. Michigan State, sooner or later, is going to be just an emotional wreck. Again, my initial look at the matchups favor Nebraska by a lot. So I'll go on record as saying Nebraska right now, and I think they win by double digits.
So then why do you think this line has gone down initially, and where do you think it'll wind up closing?
I think the public here is enamored with Michigan State. It's a good feel story. The head coach recovering from his medical problems last year, the way they're winning, everybody kind of likes that.
So Michigan State's a feel-good. Yeah, I like betting against feel-good stories. I like, when people are like making a comeback that's like really inspirational. I like to see them get beat down, so I like to bet against that. But yeah, I don't know. What other lines do you think the public might be attracted to that might get bet down during the week, and we can come in on the other side? Anything?
Well, yeah, there's one here that sticks out. Texas against Kansas.
Yeah.
Kansas was annihilated this past week. Texas has really been looking for somebody to take out use as a punching bag after all the difficult defeats they've had. However, the line opened at 23.5. It's already 27.5.
Yeah.
Which means I see a 28 right now. But clearly, the public is all over that, and the sharp money and the big bettors.
I'll tell you one line. I'm not sure where it's going to move because it's moved down a little bit, but it's Washington, Arizona. Arizona was plus 6.5 at first. Now they're down to 6 minus 110. But I'm thinking Washington might be a good bet here. Zach Rosenfield was talking about, last week they didn't really like Arizona in general as a team, which always sticks in my mind when Zach says something. And so I was looking for spots to fade them. And I think them going on the road here at less than a touchdown underdog, I think that might be a good fade spot. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so too. I'm on your side with that one, Peter. 100%. I don't even have much more to add to that, but I do like that bet.
All right, let's just, so that might be a real sharp side. Let's keep the information close to the vest. And then Wisconsin minus 7.5 at Ohio State. Ohio State is juiced now, plus 7.5, minus 116, last I checked. That's an interesting game. Ohio State, of course, is in a down year, but, imagine them being a home underdog of more than a touchdown. You think this line will, dip down under 7?
Yeah, I think so.
You do?
I think everybody's bet the favorite this year, but I think Ohio State's one of those rare teams that has actually suffered because of the defeats and the news of the program and all that stuff that people are just staying away from. Therefore, the lines made them I hate to use that word value because I don't really believe in that word value, but I think Ohio State is attractive at this level.
Dude, I hate that word value. You mind not using it again?
I apologize. I shouldn't have used it because I hate it too.
Yeah, I hate it. Don't use it on this damn show. All right, let's see. What other lines we want to talk about before we move on to the NFL. Let's see what we can find here. Let's see. Oh yeah, Clemson. Clemson's been rolling, haven't they?
Yes, they
rolling.
have.
And Georgia Tech has that dangerous option offense that is a lot of times upsets people, but recently they've been kind of losing. That's an interesting line. They opened at +4 at home. Georgia Tech. Where do you think that line's going to go?
I think the public will be on Clemson.
Yeah.
The recipe is out now to defend against that triple option. Georgia Tech, the offensive numbers have steadily declined over the last month, and Clemson's just on a roll.